Okay, this is question 8 on the higher non-calculator paper. This question was also on the foundation paper, so should be pretty straightforward. The question, if we just look at the wordings of the question, the first part of the question says to expand. That basically means they want you to multiply out this pair of brackets. Then factorize completely, that means they want you to put it into brackets. And then the last part, bit different, make h the subject of this formula. So okay, let's handle the first two parts and then we'll go on to the next part the last part in greater detail. Expand means to multiply out. So I'm going to times everything inside the brackets by the number 3. I'm going to put arrows to indicate what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do 3 times 2y. 3 times 2y is 6y. And then 3 times 5 is 15. And it's minus 5, so that's going to be 3 times minus 5, which is minus 15. Pretty straightforward there. Then we go on to part B. Right. In part B, we want to put the answer into some form which requires brackets. It's an x squared, right? But it only has 2 terms, and both of them have x squared, so it's just going to be one set of brackets. In this case, if I think about what that actually says, that says 8x squared, which is x times x, plus 4xy, which is x times y. Now, need to break this down into a couple of stages. What is common to both these two terms? That term there and that term there. They both have an x in it. So I can put x outside the brackets. So I've taken 1x out, and just because I've taken 1x out from there and there, or they have 1x in common, I could put an x outside the brackets. What number, or what's the biggest number that could go into 8 and 4? Well, numbers like 1 and 2 could go into 8 and 4, but I need the biggest number that can go into 8 and 4 to factorize it completely. The biggest number that can go into 8 and 4 is 4. So I'm going to put 4 outside the brackets as well. And now I'm going to do this in reverse. I'm going to say to myself, 4x times what will give me 8x squared? Right, 4x times what would give me 8x squared? So 4 times 2 is 8. And x times x is x squared. So just check that. 4x times 2x, 4 2's 8, x times x, x squared. So the first term is correct. And there's a plus sign in the middle. And now I need to do 4x times what is going to give me 4xy. Well, I think that's a bit more straightforward. 4x times, it must be y to give me 4xy. Okay, and if I do check that, I've checked it several times. 4x times 2x is going to be 4 2's 8, x squared. Yep, and 4x times y is just going to be 4xy. So that is it, and that's spot on. Now, this question was also on the foundation paper, as I said. Those first two parts, you have to get them right. That's 3 marks altogether. Let's look at part C. Okay, in part C, they say make h the subject of the formula. So, in order to do that, I need to break this question down. I need to think about what this says. This says t is equal to g times h divided by 10. T is equal to g times h, and then all of that divided by 10. If I want to make h the subject of the formula, start from h, and we're going to make or draw a flow diagram to describe what happens. So if I start with h is being times by g, and then once you've done h times g, you're going to divide by 10, and all of that is going to be equal to t. So if you look at this flow diagram, this tells you everything that happens. H, you times it by g, you divide by 10, and that gives you t. Exactly what the equation up there says. You need to make sure you understand that. What we're going to do now to work out a result is work backwards. Right? Do all those stages backwards, and that would give us our result over here. But as we go backwards, you need to do the opposites of these two operations. What's the opposite of dividing by 10? Times by 10. Right? That is really key that you do this. But it should make sense because you're working backwards. You need to do the opposite. What's the opposite of times by g? That's divide by g. Okay, so work it backwards. the opposite of each of those. I'm going to write in pencil on the arrows so that you could see what happens. T times by 10 is 10t. T times by 10, 10t. We normally write the number at the front, so that's 10t. And then I'm going to divide all of that by g, 10t, all of that divided by g. And that is my result. H is equal to 10t divided by g. And that's two pretty straightforward marks here. Just to remind you, when a question says make something the subject to the formula, they basically mean rearrange. So this means rearrange the question, and they've given you a hint here. They want you to make H a subject to the formula, so they want you to rearrange it so it says H is equal to something. Alright, this is a popular type question. Make sure you know it, make sure you revise it, and make sure you understand it and get the marks for it.